2020 at 6 p.m. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell,
Present.
Councilmember District B,
Present.
Councilmember District C,
Present.
Councilmember District D.
Present.
Everybody's here, including you.
Wonderful. As always, we ask God to guide and direct our meeting and bless citizens far and wide. Item 4 is citizens participation, limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments from the public. At this time, any person with city-related business who has signed up may speak to council on a specific agenda item limited to 3 minutes. In compliance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, the city may not deliberate on comments. Personal attacks will not be allowed. Personnel matters should be addressed to the city manager during normal business hours. Is there anyone online?
Yes.
Go right ahead. State your
Okay.
name.
My name Clarence Caldwell.
Hey, Clarence, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How y'all doing?
Good.
Everybody being safe from this from all this pandemic.
Well, we're trying. What's your business tonight, brother?
Okay. The reason for my call is dealing with this noise problem that I'm having next door with my neighbor with this race car. And it's gotten to the point that I have called the police department a couple of times, and really it's not really helping that much. And I think y'all gonna try to pass an ordinance today in reference to this kind of problem. The city manager, he has CDs, or shall I say, he has copies of videos of everything that has been going on. And this has been going on since December of 2019. And I have not had no enjoyment of my home, and that's not fair to me.
I agree.
That's
Mr.
it.
Caldwell. Mr. Jackson, are you addressing this issue?
Mayor, we actually have an ordinance that we're putting together for the next meeting. It will not be on the agenda tonight, but we do have something at the request of Councilman Lane that we're looking at for the next meeting, and it will be considered at that time.
Great. Mr. Caldwell, is that to your satisfaction?
Yes. Now, what shall I do for the time being?
We'll ask Mr. Jackson as a council to keep an eye on the situation via the police department.
Okay. Well, then that's it.
All right. Well, listen, you stay safe, be well.
And everybody, y'all say stay safe, and everybody be blessed.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Is there anyone else signed up to speak, Robin?
I don't see anybody else. No, sir.
Okay, then we'll go ahead to the consent agenda, item 5, Mr. Jackson.
Mayor, Council, so the first quite a few items on the workshop agenda tonight are annual items for our Department of Public Works, and I have our director, Mr. Carey, on here if you guys have any questions related to them. The first one, 5A, discussion relating to awarding bid LM-02-21 to Petroleum Traders Corporation for fuel in the amount of $4,283.30 and differential costs. This was bid out. That was the lowest bid. If you have any questions related to that, I'll have Mr. Carey answer your questions.
I had one question.
Go ahead.
Chase, and this is just purely to satisfy my curiosity, of the 3 bids, and obviously it makes sense you're recommending the lowest bid, what is the explanation for the vast difference in the bid amounts? I mean, it's like pretty exceptional, the vast difference.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and look into that, Casey, so I can get you a good answer. But right off the top of my head, I don't know exactly. I know throughout all the bids, we receive we receive different amounts from different companies, and some of them don't want us to accept it. And that's why they will give us an outrageous number. And that has happened in the past. So
Okay.
we accepted all the low bids that we received, and all these companies we look into and go over it. But I can get you a good answer here shortly.
Okay. Thanks,
Yes,
Casey.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and one of the other things that's probably a consideration in some of those as well, Councilwoman, is the distance for which they're bringing the fuel to us.
Yeah.
I think some of the ones that are significantly higher, the hauling difference was quite a bit different, and so they're charging us per gallon per loaded mile to haul it, and that makes a big difference in the cost as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on 5A? Okay, seeing none, going on to 5B, discussion relating to awarding bid LM number 03-21 to Century Asphalt for cold mix, cold lay in the amount of $32,200. Mr. Carey, you want to talk about this one real quick?
Yeah, Mr. Jackson, again, yeah, this is basically all our asphalt materials that Mr. Joe uses on the streets. And this was the low bid as well. And we've done business with Century in the past.
Any questions on item 5B? Item 5C, discussion relating to awarding bid LM-04-21 to Vulcan Construction Materials for limestone base in the amount of $39,500. Mr. Carey?
Again, Mr. Jackson, this is the limestone base that we use to backfill most of our jobs in the streets. Yeah, Vulcan is a low bid as well, and we've done business with them in the past.
So anytime we make any road cuts or
Yes,
any
sir.
repairs or anything, this goes underneath the asphalt to make sure that the asphalt stabilizes.
Correct.
Any questions on item number 5C? Okay, if not, proceeding on to item number 5D, discussion relating to awarding bid LM-05-21 to Evaqua Water Technologies for odor and corrosion control in the amount of $80,000. Mr. Carey, you want to explain this one?
Yes, sir. This is for odor control at the plant and at the lift stations. Basically, it's a chemical that we put into, that is injected into the wet wells to help with the odor. Yes, sir.
Any questions related to number 5D? 5E, discussion relating to awarding bid LM-06-21 to Sprint Waste Services for sludge removal in the amount of $120,000. Mr. Carey, you want to explain that one?
Yes, sir. The sludge removal is at the headworks at the wastewater treatment plant. All of the waste, we have to have that carried away from the plant. And that is the services that Sprint offers.
Solid waste, final product after it's run
Right.
through the wastewater treatment plant, and it's removal, disposal of that product, correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Okay, any questions on number 5E? Moving on, item number 5F, discussion relating to awarding bid LM-07-21 to Ferguson Waterworks for water and sewer supplies in the amount of $100,000. Mr. Carey?
Yes, sir. This is the clamps, the brass, all the materials that Utility 22 uses to make repairs for the water and wastewater infrastructure.
Okay. Any questions on item number 5F? Moving on, item number 5G, discussion relating to approving a professional services agreement for fiscal year 2020-2021 with Precision Utility LLC for oversight and administration of the water and wastewater facilities, Department 24, for compliance with Tceq and to provide for health, safety, and welfare of the city of Lamarck in the amount of $150,000. Mr. Carey?
Yes, sir. So this is the annual contract with Precision Utilities. And, you know, Mr. Jackson, as our plan is, hopefully this will be the last one. We have a plan in place to send staff to get licensed to where we can oversee the plant and operations without having a contractor to utilize the contractor's licenses. So, yeah, they basically, we utilize their licenses with the state of Texas with Tceq.
Yeah, so quick discussion on that. We have to have at least a Class B operator at our water and wastewater, at our water treatment facilities and our wastewater treatment plant to meet TCEQ requirements. We have a staff member who started training this week to get his Class C certifications. Once he gets his Class C certifications, then we will be able to utilize his licenses along with the licenses of our engineering firms to operate until we can get him up to a Class B. And hopefully by this time next year, this is a contract that we won't ever look at again.
Yes, sir.
But for 1 year, we're going to have it so we can get him going. So any questions on number 5G?
Not a question thing, but I mean, you guys answered. I had a question, and my question was directly related to what you all have just communicated. Before your time, when we had the previous city manager, we couldn't keep up staff members with appropriate certifications. They were leaving for higher paying positions, doing the same type of work. Some of them were retired. Some of them perhaps were let go. I don't remember what the scenario was. But that was the reason we went with MOC and subsequently the reason we've been going with Precision. So it's good news to me because I was going to really take this opportunity to provide some oversight that you all are already moving in that direction, because that's what I was going to drill down on, the fact that we were supposed to years ago move into a space that we can actually employ this person and this person be one of our own. So good work, Chase, for having that foresight. Good work, Tceq, for having that foresight. Good job, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, this is very, it's difficult when you're in a smaller city to keep a quality person in this job. But Chase and I have been talking about this for a while. We have the person who is the leader of that crew over there is ready to learn and grow with us, and he's not planning on going anywhere. I think we can get a quality employee, a little bit of training, and we're going to have him for quite a while, and he's going to do a good job over there. So this, and in the long run, it will end up saving us some money at the wastewater treatment plant. So yeah, we will keep moving forward with that. Any other questions on item 5G? Moving on, 5H, discussion relating to approving the annual water pollution control and abatement contract with Galveston County Health District for services provided, including citywide grease trap inspections, wastewater treatment inspections, and compliant investigations in the amount of $13,847. Mr. Carey.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. This is our annual contract with the health department. There was an increase from last year, about $800, but yeah, they oversee the grease traps. They do inspections, complaints. If citizens have issues, they're called out, and we work with them directly to resolve any issues that we have in the city. Yes, sir.
Any questions on item 5H?
Yeah, I had a question. Chase, could you elucidate for me just a little more, like, how does that contract work? Because I know from previous conversations and hearing you report to us about, grease trap issues and, things at Kelly's and, all those. Does GCHD get called on this every single time there's a complaint around grease trap issues specifically?
Yes, ma'am. We will notify them if we have any issues, and they will investigate it. And generally, it works back and forth as well. Citizens can call them to say if they have any issues with our infrastructure. So I'm in constant contact with the health department, working on to resolve multiple issues through town. But yeah, yes, ma'am. I call them if we have an issue with the grease trap.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
It actually is very beneficial for us when it comes to some of these grease trap issues, because most of the time when you have a grease trap issue, it's repetitive in nature with the same person or the same entities. It's over and over, and having that person who's not directly tied to the city come in and say that what they're doing is incorrect or wrong, it helps us in our cases against those businesses as well. So this is a pretty useful contract. Any other questions related to 5H? Moving on, item number 5I, discussion relating to adopting the Citizen Participation Plan, CPP, for the Cdbg mitigation program for the city of Lamarck. That's in your packet. I'll have Charlene talk about this a little bit more in just a second. I just want to point out that this is a requirement under the grant, as it is with all the rest of the grants. We have to have a Citizen Participation Plan adopted by council before we can move forward with our application. So this is something that we need to do. We have had a number of meetings already on this mitigation grant program. I think we're going to have a very good application to bring to you guys for consideration to talk about. That could be a very significant game changer for the city. We're looking at a large grant application on this. Our 2 engineers that you guys selected to work on this doing a good job putting this thing together. We're having weekly updates with the grant administrator and with the engineers on this and getting this thing put together. And it looks like, based on the way we're putting it together, we're going to rank very high on these mitigation grants and really have a chance to get a significant grant for the city on this. But this is specifically for the participation, the citizen participation plan. Charlene, you want to add anything else on that?
Just a brief description about what the citizen participation plan is. It's a plan that outlines formal complaint and grievance procedures. It also requires that the city provides public outreach opportunities and public hearings if necessary for citizen commentary on proposed activities related to the application. So just a brief synopsis of what the plan is.
Any questions related to item 5I?
I only had one note, and that was that in the section about public notification and whatnot, I know that it'll be, put in the newspaper, and I'm sure we'll have information on our website or whatnot. Do we usually include social media collateral when we do the public notification, when we're fulfilling those elements of plans like this?
We do. I don't know that it's a requirement. I know they changed this a little bit this time because of COVID. So you don't have the public meetings, and you have some other parameters this time. And I know we discussed utilizing our social media platform on this application as well, because they did kind of change it up a little bit because of COVID. But we will definitely make sure that we post stuff about it on our social media platforms.
Solicit participation that way. Cool.
You bet.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on 5I? Okay, item number 5J, discussion relating to adopting resolution R-2020-0015, authorizing the submission of an application for the Community Development Block Grant Mitigation Cdbg MIT Hurricane Harvey Grant Program administered by the Texas General Land Office, GLO. Before I let Charlene talk about this a little bit more, I kind of broached this just a minute ago, and I want to point out something, because there's some really big numbers in this grant application. Our application that we're looking at right now, we're going to request approximately $30 million. We believe that we have projects that line up with the requirements of the grant that are going to score very high on this. Most of this will be related to stormwater, to our lift stations, replacing our lift stations, our stormwater system, and our wastewater system. We're still working out all the final details as to what all we think will fit underneath this grant program. But I did want to point out on this in the resolution, it is authorizing the application for up to $30 million. There is a 1% match. That 1% match, of course, if we got a $30 million grant, would be $300,000. We are including the renovation of the existing wastewater treatment plant facility in that grant application. We can't include the build of the new one, but the renovations that we're doing to the old one, the grant administrator and the engineers both believe that those are going to be eligible. Those monies would be eligible. And so we have money in the bond that we just did that would do that renovation. And so if we can get it included in the grant, then the money from the bond could be used for the match, and we wouldn't have to come up with the matching funds outside of with any other money. We'd already have that money in place, and we'd end up saving some money on our bond doing that. So I just wanted to point that out real quick before we went forward with this. Is we do realize there's the big match in there, but we incorporated some work that had been accounted for in the bond that we already have the financing for to cover that. Charlene, anything else you want to add on this application?
No, it's just one of the necessary steps to move forward, tick all the boxes off for GLO. These resolutions are necessary.
And once we get the final application together and where we think it's going to be a functional application, we'll definitely talk to council about it before it is submitted again, because it is a gigantic application. We have until October 20th for the submission of that, and we're working on it pretty hard already, trying to make sure we get it all done. One of the things about you guys authorized GrantWorks to be our grant administrator for this grant, and one of the things about GrantWorks is the majority of the eligible parties under this grant, they know or they've worked with before, so they're able to kind of do a pre-scoring on these and see where they think we'll fall within this. And they're estimating right now that out of the 96 entities that are eligible for this grant, that for round one, we're probably going to rank about number 7 on the priority list. Our project is citywide, so that puts our score significantly higher. By keeping it under the $30 million threshold, we get almost full points for our ratio of cost per person or cost per impacted person with the grant. And they were pretty excited about our application and the quality of our application and the projects that we've been talking about doing with it. So we're very hopeful that as this moves forward, we really have a very legitimate shot at about $30 million in infrastructure improvements out of this grant. Any questions over 5J? Okay, moving on. Item number 5K, discussion relating to adopting resolution R 2020-0016, authorizing the submission of an application for the Community Development Block Grant Mitigation 2015 Flood Grant Programs administered by the Texas General Land Office. So there's actually two different grant applications that are open right now. Mitigation is the big one, but there was some money left over in the 2016 flood applications or the flood grant. And so we're going to submit a separate application for that one. That's going to be, I think the number we ended up with was about 7.5 million was what we could go after under that one and still keep our LMI ratio low enough that we would be competitive. On this one, what we're looking at is replacing all the manholes in town. So every manhole that we have on our wastewater system, every out there, it would replace every one of the manholes. This one there's not near as much money in this one as there is in the mitigation one. This one's going to be a whole lot more competitive for the little bit of funds that are out there. But again, as we went back and forth with GrantWorks on this one, our program is citywide, and they're not sure. They estimated that we rank about 15 out of 96 on this grant on the eligibility list, but they're pretty sure a bunch of the entities above us are not going to come up with citywide projects. And if they don't come up with citywide projects where we have one, that moves us probably up the list for possibility of getting funded. So this one is a shot in the dark. We don't really know how much money is going to go out on this one in the first few that get approved, but definitely don't want to pass up an opportunity to try to get some funding out of this. So this would be the resolution authorizing the submission of that application as well. We're working on it at the same time we're working on the other one. Any questions on 5K? Moving on. Item number 5L, discussion related to adopting resolution R 2020-0017, designating the city attorney for certain purposes. We talked about this. I can let Derek give you a little bit more information on this one if you guys want it. But because of the way that position was hired, she still needs to be designated by the city council as the city attorney for city purposes, because that's the way it's set up in the charter, and then legally she needs to be designated as well. So Derek, if you want to talk a little bit about what's in that resolution real quick and let them know why we set it up the way we did, that'd be great.
Sure. So in effect, you would be designating me very specifically for performing legal services for the city when you don't already have outside counsel. You've currently got a legal advisor that acts on behalf of the EDC in certain instances, and you have a prosecutor that works on contract. I know at some point in probably the next 6 months, a year, 2 years at council's discretion, you will probably want to expand that scope of services. Right now, you are using my expertise in development services in addition to the city attorney side of things. So that's why the position's set up the way it is. So you kind of get to leverage that heavy development experience that I have. But in the near future, we anticipate that council may want to change that. And that's why it's set as a designation. Any questions?
I have a question, dear. I spoke with Tceq earlier, and I'm okay with the fact that just fiscally we won't be able to do that this year. We talked a lot. The council's talked a lot about adding a deputy city attorney or an assistant city attorney to help you. And I know this year fiscally this just probably won't happen. But I'm still And I think the council is still very much interested in it happening as soon as possible. And also, Tink assured me that you will assume responsibility for coordinating with the prosecutors, oversight, supervision of their work product. So I'm okay with that.
Yes, I will definitely be involved in the systemic process, especially if there's any kind of complaints. I'll be involved from the contract perspective as the city attorney as well. Just to clarify one kind of minor point that's a legal issue is that under the Code of Criminal Procedure, it designates the city attorney as the municipal prosecutor. And so to the extent that we have that handled by outside counsel to prevent any kind of ethical questions as far as that goes, we have currently left their prosecutorial discretion alone. But you could definitely talk to me if there were any kind of issues with them as a contractor, and I'd be happy to help.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
That works. Thank you.
Any other questions on item 5L? Moving on, item 5M, discussion related investment report for second quarter 2020. Give a synopsis real quick.
Good evening. Yes, this is for the second quarter of the investment quality report ended June 30th, 2020. And per Public Funds Investment Act, we are required to submit to you for review quarterly investment report. Of course, in the investment world right now, nothing really looks good because of COVID. So, but we're doing the best we can. We're not at a loss. We have a little bit of interest, but that's the best we can do. And that's worldwide. It's not just United States. Any questions regarding the quarterly report?
Okay, seeing none, moving on to item number 5N, discussion relating to adopting resolution R 2020-0018, accepting the 2020 City of Lamarck investment policy for investment of municipal funds per Public Funds Investment Act. Susie.
Yes, this is also required by the Public Funds Investment Act that we need to review our policy and make sure that we update it based on new legislation or any changes. We are submitting to you this evening with no change because we haven't had any legislative changes that required us to make the change. So it is what it is. So it is the same as the current policy, but it is required. The process is required per Public Funds Investment Act.
Annually, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions on item number 5N? Moving on to new business, item number 6A, discussion relating to approving trails at Woodhaven Lakes general plan with conditions that an all-weather emergency road suitable for fire truck and ladder use in an emergency response be provided at the entrance off of Delaney Road. Derry, you want to go over this one real quick?
Yes, so council has already approved the planned development district zoning for this property that includes green space requirements, street tree limits, etc. This was that larger sort of mixed use community. What you're looking at here is just one of the required phases in platting. We now have a formalized general plan process anytime there's going to be phased development. The approval is objective. We have a checklist. If they meet it, they pass. If they don't pass. In this case, they did meet the requirements with the exception of the one condition, which is because of the size of phase one. We want to make sure that there is sufficient emergency access until those roads are finished out in phase two and all throughout construction. So that's where the one condition comes from. Any questions for me?
Yeah, I've got one. So, I think because this has been such a long, winding pathway to get where we are with the trails at Woodhaven Lakes, I think it's exciting. And I wanted to know, Dara, if you could help me understand, you mentioned the street trees and, I know they exceed our green space requirements, if I remember correctly from the last by a couple percentage points or whatever. But if we wanted Padro Realty to provide us with a detailed plan for like what their street tree, installation plans would be, what their lists of trees are going to be, what their plans are for landscaping and creating walkable spaces within the neighborhoods, what sidewalks will look like to accommodate tree sizes as they grow. How do we integrate, like what part of the discussion? I thought that we still had time to sort of put those negotiating elements into this conversation, but I think, as I understand, like that would have been before the last time that we approved.
So I think that's correct. I'm happy to provide a copy of the Plan Development District Ordinance, which did have quite a lot of detail, right down to, if memory serves, I think there was even some cross sections of the various streets. There is detail about where sidewalks go. I believe there was also a point where they had submitted some funding for kind of neighborhood streets because it was not engineering feasible for them to install the sidewalks on one side of a major street. And so they had an alternative that they were using for that. It did include some of those amenities, et cetera. And then we've also got our engineering design criteria manual, which provides a lot of detailed specifications on all those items. It does get a little bit confusing as far as, when you refer to negotiation, because to the extent that we're dealing with the Plan Development District, there's more negotiation than you would typically see in a large residential subdivision. There is some back and forth, but it's all in the context of us being a regulatory entity and setting the zoning designation. So we're kind of limited in how far we can require things, in that particular context. If we wanted to go farther than that, there are basically two ways to come at that. So one is a development agreement, which is usually when you're dealing with an actual contractual relationship, because, for instance, the city's paying for something. In that case, we get more authority than we do from the zoning side of things. The other time that you would really get involved in that is if we were passing a citywide ordinance for certain things. For instance, the street trees have become an issue and we have some really specific requirements on that, that we could apply citywide, we could adopt a new ordinance. And I promise you that I am looking at the development ordinances and you're going to see a lot of updates in the near future. It's just going to take me a little time to get there, and then we'd be open to talking over those things and whatever council's direction is.
Well, I mean, I assume the to-do list, I assume, is lengthy. So that's, understandable.
I can certainly add that to it to dust off,
Yeah, I mean, for me, my biggest concern, and I think the rest of the council has heard me talk about this before a number of times, and is just that this neighborhood ends up being a place that we're setting up for success in terms of not running into trouble down the road with sidewalks busting and whatnot, and also planning for a beautiful place to live with abundant trees and green and nature, and that is built into it. And I can see in this plan, and I remember in their other plan, that there was a lot of details and cross sections, but it felt like to me, in my memory and in my notes, the questions I asked of them at that point was like, well, we'll talk more about that as we get closer, and at some point I'm like, when is the time we talk about like specificity, so that what happens is it's not a really pretty neighborhood that gets put up, and it's a bunch of trees that are completely unsuitable, and it's not that many trees at all. And so we get to say, yeah, there's this great, sidewalk in this walking trail around this lake, but it has no shade. It's pretty damn miserable to walk out. And like, just those are the kinds of things I'm thinking about right now as we get closer towards this actually coming to fruition. And I really would like y'all's advice on, that concern.
What I think you're referring to, which definitely, warrants more discussion. I think the specificity that you're referring to with the trees is going to be outside of our regulatory authority in this context. I think what you're talking about is just dusting off our landscaping ordinance. It is definitely on the list. I'll tell you, it's a little lower on the priority list, but it's definitely on there. And so when we get to that, that would be the point that we would talk over it. If you have comments that you want to make in the meantime, you're welcome to email me and I'll start it, building those into the draft.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, let me correct that for chain of command purposes, because I'm no longer your outside counsel. You probably should email those to Mr. Jackson, and then he will forward them on to me.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Casey, I think we got kind of discombobulated on this one a little bit because we had the pit and then it came back to the discussion about the mud.
Yeah.
There was 2 or 3 different angles that this one came in, and I think we when we finally figured out how to get it moving forward, I think we were so happy that we finally got it moving forward that we just it's like, okay, now let's let them go because we've held them up for, it took extra time to get them to that
that's what
point.
happened with myself, was like, I've had these long lists of notes and about trees and landscaping and porous surfaces and all this stuff and excited. And then I was like, oh, shoot. Where do we have the talk about that? And I should say, I do feel like Padua did a pretty decent job of responding to some of the feedback we gave them and that I specifically gave. So I respect that. I don't want to hold them accountable for all the things I want to see in all developments going forward, my opinion about what should happen. But it is something, dusting off that ordinance would be great. Let's put it that way. Okay.
That's definitely on the list.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on 6A? Okay, moving on to item number 6B, discussion relating to approving Attico LLC engineering agreement for improvements to the FM 2004 dog track water tower in the amount of $62,000 and encumbering funds for the additional estimated amount of $388,000 for construction. This is one of the items we had on the contract with the citizens last year that we're moving forward with now. This one kind of got put off because of COVID and because of some other things going on there at the dog track. But now we're ready to move forward with getting that project done. So this would be approving the engineering agreement with Attico and then establishing the framework to start and get some bids to get the work done. Mr. Carey, anything else you want to add to that?
Thanks, Mr. Jackson. Yeah, this was from a notice of violation from Tceq, and that was dated back in March of 2018. So basically, they confirmed there was surface rust on the elevated storage tank, and so this will just rectify the surface rust, a restoration project, basically.
Any questions related to 6B? If not, Mayor, that's it.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we'll adjourn the workshop, move on to the regular meeting, Lamarck City Council, Monday, September 14th. Let the record reflect that according to my list, all members of council are still present. Item 3 is the minutes, A through J. I'll read them off. Workshop City Council, July 13th, 2020. Regular City Council meeting, July 13th, 2020. Special City Council meeting, July 20th, 2020. Budget workshops, July 27, 28, and 30, 2020. Workshop City Council, August 10th, 2020. Regular City Council meeting, August 10th, 2020. Special Employees Benefits Trust meeting, 8/17/2020. Special Public Hearing and City Council meeting, 8/17/2020. Special City Council meeting, 8/24/2020. And special public hearing and City Council meeting, 9/8/2020. I'll entertain a motion on all of those minutes for approval.
So move.
I second that motion.
Are there any additions and corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any?
Aye.
Thank you. Any moving on to the consent agenda? Is there anyone wanting to pull anything off of the consent agenda at this time? Hearing and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So
I move
move.
we approve.
There's a motion. You want to be the second, Ms. Casey?
I second.
All right. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Show the motion passes. Item 5 under new business, item A, discussion possible action to trails at Woodhaven Lakes general plan with condition that an all-weather emergency access road suitable for fire truck and ladder use in an emergency response be provided at the entrance off of Delaney Road. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
The motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Show the motion passes. Item B, discussion possible action to approve Attico LLC engineering agreement for improvements to the FM 20004 dog track water tower in the amount of $62,000 and encumber funds for an additional estimated amount of $388,000 for construction. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Show the motion passes. Item 6, appointments. Discussion possible action relating to appointments and or reappointments to fill various positions of boards and commission. Does anyone have any appointments or reappointments this evening?
I do, Mayor. I want to reappoint Mr. Ron Crowder to the EDC board.
Thank you, sir. Are there any others?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mayor. I have several. To the Building Standards Commission, I reappoint Billy Jefferson. To the Cemetery Board, I reappoint Ellen Hanley. To the Planning and Zoning, I reappoint Augustino Molas. To the Parks Board, I reappoint Bo Hunter. There are 2 other appointments that I have, Mayor, and I wanted to clarify a couple things. I saw where Deanie Barrett has resigned her membership to our Economic Development Council. I think it's due to take effect in October. I saw that in our information packet, but I didn't see that that was my appointment. So I want to clarify on the record that that is a District A appointment. And so when her time ends, I'll be ready to appoint that. And I have another appointment. It's Mr. Joe Compion on the Keep Lamarck Beautiful Commission, but he is standing for election. And so that's why I have not reappointed him because he's in the middle of an election and he's campaigning. And so I didn't think it was proper for me to do that until his election ends so that there's no bias from this council. If you understand what I'm saying, Mayor, there's no bias from this council as it relates to his candidacy, because we want to we should as a council remain fair and impartial. So that's why, Mayor, I have not reappointed him yet.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that, Mayor Pro Tem, and let it be known to everyone that we do have until our meeting in December, anytime between now and then, to make any appointments. So we have a list of appointments. Madam Clerk, do you have all those listed?
I have one as well. I'm sorry.
Oh, go right ahead.
That's okay. I just a little bit of context. I would like to appoint Ms. Crystal Cooper to the Board of Adjustments, with the caveat that I have yet to have a voice-to-voice conversation with her yet. I called her once and did not get her. I spent a lot of time the past month trying to get a hold of Ms. Helen Key, but I just simply could not get her after many, many phone calls. And I know that she has had health issues, and I assume that that is what it is related to. But that's why I really put off. It didn't feel right not reappointing her, not having talked to her yet. But I think the fact that I couldn't get a hold of her during this month means I should reappoint Ms. Cooper. But I have not spoken with her yet to confirm that she is still enthusiastically ready to be appointed. So I will do my best this week to get a hold of her, and I'm sure Robin will as well. And should she agree, then huzzah, Crystal Cooper to the BOA.
Great. So you want to hold off until next month on appointing her?
I mean,
Or do you want to do it and take the chance?
I'll take the chance. I know that we desperately need to fill that Board of Adjustments position, so I'd say let's take.
Council, yes, ma'am. Council is happy to take that chance with you. So Madam Clerk, you have a list of appointments there made. I second all of the appointments and reappointments. And there's no discussion on appointments, so I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And are there any opposed? Show that the appointments and reappointments pass.
Mayor, could you, Mayor Pro Tem, could you give me your names again, real quick, so we make sure we didn't miss anybody?
Yes, sir. Building and Standards, I have Billy Jefferson reappointed. Cemetery, I have Ellen Hanley reappointed. Planning and Zoning, I have Augustino Molis reappointed. And the Parks Board, I have Bo Hunter reappointed.
Okay. I got them that time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Hank, do we have an executive session?
We do, right there?
A very quick one.
Yeah, it'll be a quick one.
Okay, and so does Kyle have us set up to leave the house and then re-enter?
Doing that right now.
Kiddo. I'll read that while you're doing that. The City Council for the City of Lamarck, Texas reserves the right to adjourn into executive session at any time during the course of this meeting to discuss any of the matters listed. Tonight, we are going under A, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney of the Texas Government Code regarding pending litigation, Lamarck EDC versus Texas City Terminal Railway Company, cause number 20-CB-0633, and B, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney of the Texas Government Code regarding Comcast litigation. Madam Clerk, will you call the time?
I have 6:43.
6:43. We will close the regular meeting and go to the executive session. Kyle, are we ready to do that?
Yes, you should be able to go into the room I created now.
Okay, I'm looking for it. Does everyone see it but me?
No, I haven't got it either.
I don't have an option.
I don't have it.
There it is.
There it is.
I don't have it. All right, thank you. See you guys in a second. Okay, everybody make it back?
Double check and make sure, but it appears everybody made it back.
Wonderful. So we are at 6:53, resuming our regular city council meeting. There's no action to be taken from executive session at this time. Item 9, requests and announcements. Does anybody have any requests or announcements? I do.
Why the?
Wednesday, September 16th, my Virgo bride of 50 years celebrates a birthday, and I want to wish her a happy and blessed birthday. She is, as you all know by now, the love of my life, and each year that she remains on this earth is a tremendous blessing, not only to me, but kids and grandkids and friends and family, and so happy birthday, baby.
Happy birthday to her, Mayor.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Mayor, just I think we ought to keep our neighbors to the east in our thoughts and prayers going into the night, because Sally's going to show up over there tonight, and they're going to have a pretty rough night tonight.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a Cat 2 turning east of New Orleans and headed into Mississippi area. And so certainly we keep them in our thoughts tonight. And if you've looked at the hurricane click to or any of those channels, there's like 7 storms out there. It's just absolutely crazy. And so we definitely pray a hedge of protection around the city of Lamarque and Galveston County, and pray for those that'll be affected. Anything else from anyone? Well, I move adjourned.
Mayor, sorry, the Mayor Pro Tem keeps speaking, but we can't hear him.
Yeah, okay, they had me mute. Apparently I was muted when I came back, but thank you, dear. Mayor and Tceq. I would like, and I'm asking for this to be placed on the agenda, not the council, but I'm asking, and I'm going to ask my friend from District B to go along with me so that we can do this by ordinance. But I want to place on the agenda for next meeting a total of the amount of late fees that we have billed for our water service since Governor Abbott has declared this pandemic an emergency. I'd like for this council to look at that number to see how large that number is. I would like, Tceq, for you to work with DERA to see if there is any way that this council might be able to waive the late fees of our citizens, those fees that were incurred during this pandemic. Many of our people have lost their jobs. Many of them are living under tighter budgets. Many of them have increasing water bills because children are at home. We're sheltering in place many times. And it was brought up maybe a month or two ago, what we could do for our citizens. And this is something tangible that we might be able to do for our citizens. We have tried to bail out our small businesses twice. And so this might not be a major bailout, but this could possibly be something that we can do for our citizens. If it is legal, DERA, then we could probably recoup this from those monies that the federal government expended to us previously, that we have talked a lot about as far as giving the county a portion or not giving the county a portion. But it's something, Mayor, it's something, Tceq, that we might be able to do to let our citizens know that we care, if it's legal. And so, Casey, would you co-sign with me on this one?
Absolutely. I support that.
We will have a list put together and we will have options for you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll give you a third on it as well.
Yeah, we'll have it prepared for the next meeting.
And yeah, for the record, that's 3 people for putting this on the next agenda.
Wonderful.
Thank you, dear.
So, any other discussion, any other announcements? You guys stay safe, be well. I move adjournment.
Second.
Love you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
See ya.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Bye, y'all. Bye. Bye, Dara.